recognized symbol of excellence for your entertainment.
Welcome to Machino Music, the show that puts the music in Machino Music, with your host, me, Brett Strong. Today on Machino Music, it's Most Punk Devo Songs. Now it can be told the truth about de-evolution. We're all Devo. Okay, here we go. Most Punk Devo Songs. We did Most Punk Blondie Songs. Now we're doing Most Punk Devo. These are bands like Blondie and Devo. I thought these were two bands to kind of do this idea with, this most punk, because they're bands that kind of come up in the punk discussion. Some people like swear they're a punk band, and then you really kind of, no, they're not really. They're more what was called new wave. And we talk a lot about new wave here, and yeah, so I thought this was an interesting one, and Blondie and Devo I think definitely fit into this, what can you call by them that is actually punk? I actually got into a friendly discussion right here on YouTube in the comments about, like Devo, are they a punk band? Now, some say, yeah, they are a punk band, one of the first punk bands. But I've always think of them more like new wave.
Saturday Night Live bumped them from the show because an NBC executive was deeply concerned about the likelihood of slam dancing.
People don't slam dance at Devo concerts. That's punk. They're new wave. It's a totally different head. Totally.
But I went through a lot of the albums and sort of picked out what I think are the most punk Devo songs. And I always say this too. Don't give me that crap. That punk is an attitude, not a sound. Don't give me that. I mean, they say rock and roll is an attitude, and that's why we have hip hop in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So if it's like that would mean like everything is an attitude. It has to have something to do with the sound of the music itself. There's fluff flying all over the place here, but so don't give me that punk and attitude crap, because that's not what that. Then everything would be considered a style of music. You don't say hip hop is an attitude, because now they're saying we're rock and roll. Like, it has to have something to do with the sound. So let's get into it here. What are the most punk Devo songs that I could find? You might have more, but these are the ones I could find. Most of these are from the hardcore albums, and I'm going to start with Fountain of Filth from Hardcore Volume 2. Very raw sounding. Those hardcore albums, it's Devo just sort of figuring it out. They didn't have a lot of access to, the synthesizers and kind of production value that they would get on when they, later into the 80s. This is like 1974, 77. Before they got signed to make their first album from Warner Brothers. So they were still trying to figure it out. So it was very primitive sounding, which is basically punk. It was very primitive sounding. They didn't have access to the big production. So Fountain of Filth is definitely one of those songs that it's a very, even the title, Fountain of Filth, sounds like a punk song. So I'm putting that one. Next one I have here is I Need a Chick, also from Hardcore Volume 2. This song is definitely what you would call NSFW. Yeah. Don't listen to this one in the office unless you're wearing headphones, because, whoa. The lyrics on this one, I mean, I can't even say them. I feel too dirty saying them. It's a crazy song. So yeah, I Need a Chick from Hardcore Volume. Definitely not safe for work. So if you're gonna listen to that one, I'm gonna check out some of these songs. put on headphones if you're gonna listen to "I Need a Chick." If you're in your office on your lunch hour, and just put your feet up on the desk, goofing off, listening to music. Yeah, put on headphones for the sake of your coworkers who might be a little surprised and startled. So yeah, "I Need a Chick" definitely. Also from Hardcore Volume 2, "Be Stiff." Actually, this is the Tony Basil cover of this song is actually much faster and actually much more punk sounding than the Devo original. Although their demo version of this song is actually is closer to maybe how Tony Basil interpreted it. So she's kind of doing, I guess, more of the version of the demo. Because the one on the remaster that was on the album doesn't really sound like this. And as mentioned before, Tony Basil's first album is like a lost Devo album. Mark Mothersbaugh and Gerald Casale appear on it, and they produced it. Come on, don't sleep on Tony Basil. She's so great. People sort of think, "Hey, Mickey, you're so fine." No, she's so much better than that one song. And she was punk. She had a few, and she did a few Devo covers. From mostly songs from the hardcore, like not like the big name songs, but "Be Stiff" definitely has a punk energy to it, and especially you're gonna really go punk. I mean, definitely check out the Tony Basil cover. But yeah, I think that one fits. Next from "Duty Now for the Future," got the song "Clock Out." Now, mostly they're sung by Gerald Casale. These punk songs. These are punk-sounding songs. And this is a great one. This has got like a real punk energy. Sort of like a get-up-and-go kind of song. Still sounds more new wave sound. There's still a bit of synthesizer and stuff on it. But it's such a great song. It's got definitely a very fast get-up-and-go punk energy. And I've always loved "Clock Out." Probably one of the best songs on that album. My favorites on the "Duty Now for the Future" album, which I say is my favorite Devo album. Just love that one. All right, next up from the debut, "Space Junk." Now this is a very weird song. It's got the synthesizer, kind of a new wave feel, but it's just more of that breakdown part in the middle where Mark is just sort of like just naming off a bunch of things and doing like these weird accents and stuff like that. That part definitely is very punk. So yeah, I had to put that one, "Space Junk," and I always really liked that one. One of the standouts for me from the debut. All right, next from the debut, "Uncontrollable Urge." This is where we're like, okay, this is total punk Devo. And actually, the debut, I think, is the most punk I think they ever were on record. Because by about Duty Now for the Future, especially New Traditionalists, they figured out this totally new wave. Like, it's more this other thing. Also, drummer Alan Meyer was more of a methodical, more meticulous drummer. Not really a basher like you get in punk. And also from the debut you have, I didn't include this one, it's kind of an honorable mention before I get to what I think is the #1 Most Punk Devo song. The honorable mention, "Slap Your Mammy," which is the second part of "Gut Feeling." I didn't really include it because it's like the whole song isn't really that good, but just that second part, it's just completely insane, totally punk. They're going on like it's a lot of screaming, it's fast playing, it's really intense, but it's only that one part of the song. So definitely that one, and that's the thing. That's another case for like the debut being the most punk Devo album, because it has those two songs I mentioned, "Space Junk" and "Uncontrollable Urge," but they feel very punk. And it also has that section on gut feeling, slap your mammy. But here is what is the Most Punk Devo song. This is, I think, the song that, if you're going to call Devo a punk band, there's only one song you can do it with, and it's from Hardcore Volume 1, and the song is called Aglotto. It's like a forgotten song. Most people don't even remember. Now, the hardcore albums are sort of like these outlier, sort of forgotten about, just like, they're just demos, really. It's 1974 or 77, before they were signed. They didn't have access to a lot of the production value that, you know, they would get when they signed to a major label. So this song is totally raw. Like, if you took a Aglotto and just put it on for somebody, didn't tell them it was Devo, and just said, this is some, oh, let's listen to this, this is a great punk song you've never heard before, listen, they would think, wow, who's this band? They wouldn't think it's Devo. Then you tell them it's Devo, and you go, Devo weren't a punk band. Exactly. This is the most raw, most punk I think Devo ever got. So, you know, are they into discussion of punk? Yes. And no. I read a couple books recently, one about the history of punk, and Devo was mentioned, but in the new wave section, the post-punk new wave section. And also read a book recently on the history of new wave, and Devo's right there on the cover. So they're really the quintessential new wave band, but do have some connection to punk, and definitely had their punk moments. Very much like Blondie. Very much had their punk moments, but you can't really necessarily call them a punk band because, you know, it's just, there's too much of this other thing going on. This new thing, this thing we're calling new wave. So, sort of an interesting topic, kind of expanding on my most punk Blondie songs. Now we're doing most punk Devo songs. Those were really the only two bands I could really do kind of most punk for. I mean, there's a few others I could probably look for, but I know those were the two I really wanted to focus on. If you think of some other songs you think are more very punk Devo, then feel free to share. But I think this, you know, this is what I pick, and I'm a big Devo fan, and we're living in Devo right now. It's de-evolution. They were right. They were pioneers who got scalped, but turned out to be right, what they were saying. There you go. We're living in Devo, and we're talking about Devo here today. And if you're a fan of Devo, I hope you enjoyed this.
Dear Edith, you are a warm and beautiful human. That is really how I feel.
You mean that? You want to do the song? You're going to do the song? Hey, I'll just leave a copy of it in the dressing room for you, okay?
That's it for this week. Until we meet again, this is Brett Strong saying good journey.